When you stop being available, everything changes. Life shifts its colors, relationships reveal their true shape, and you begin to see with new eyes the hidden architecture of human connection. Carl Jung reminded us that people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls, and often our constant availability is a disguise for that avoidance. We keep ourselves busy with others, always present, always responding, because it shields us from the terrifying silence of being alone with ourselves. But what happens when you withdraw? When you say no to the endless requests, when you no longer rush to pick up every call, when you let the unanswered message linger for hours or even days, something radical emerges. People around you reveal whether their bond with you was love or merely convenience. The masks fall, the illusions break, and the truth, however painful, sets you free. It begins subtly. Perhaps you have a friend who always leans on you for comfort but rarely asks how you are. The moment you stop being available, their silence grows heavy. They might call less. They might drift away. And at first you feel abandoned. But then you realize they were never truly there for you. They were there for what you provided. Jung would say, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And when you stop being available, you start walking toward that terrifying acceptance. Because now, stripped of distraction, you must face yourself. Society has trained us to think of constant availability as a virtue, to always be reachable, always be responsive, always be in service of others. Parents are praised for sacrificing themselves endlessly. Employees are rewarded for answering emails at midnight. Lovers are celebrated for being always there. But hidden within this cultural narrative is a poison, the erosion of boundaries, the decay of self-respect, the loss of the sacred mystery of presence. Think of light. If the sun never set, if daylight stretched without end, would we still marvel at its brilliance? No. It is the darkness of night that makes the sunrise holy. It is absence that gives presence its weight. When you are constantly available, your presence becomes like the endless noon, flattened, stripped of meaning, taken for granted. But when you withdraw, when you allow absence, your return carries the power of sunrise. Nietzsche once wrote, "No price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself." And yet, we trade this privilege away every day, piece by piece, in the name of availability. We sacrifice our solitude to answer messages. We abandon our rest to fix someone else's chaos. We surrender our dreams to satisfy someone else's needs. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, we give ourselves away until nothing remains but exhaustion. To step back, to no longer be endlessly available, is to reclaim ownership of your life. At first, this act feels selfish. Guilt whispers in your ear. What if they think you don't care? What if they feel abandoned? What if they leave? But pause for a moment. If their love or respect depends entirely on your constant availability, is that truly love? Or is it dependence, addiction, convenience disguised as affection? Freud observed that relationships are often mirrors of unconscious need. We are drawn to those who fulfill our unmet desires, often at their own expense. And when one person is endlessly available, the other projects their unresolved wounds onto them. The absent parent, the unreliable lover, the distant friend. The always available one becomes the replacement, the surrogate, the emotional sponge. But this is not love, it is transference, and transference suffocates both souls involved. When you stop being available, you break this cycle. You hand back to others what was never yours to carry. You say, "I am not your missing parent, not your endless supply of attention, not your guarantee of comfort. I am a human being, whole and imperfect, with my own path to walk." And though they may resist, though they may accuse you of selfishness, this act is the beginning of healing, for you and perhaps for them. Rilke wrote, "The only journey is the one within." When you step back from others, you finally begin that journey. The silence you feared becomes a sanctuary. The solitude you once avoided becomes a mirror. At first, the reflection is uncomfortable. You see your fears, your insecurities, your unmet desires, but slowly you begin to see beauty too. You discover passions that were buried, dreams that were deferred, truths that were silenced beneath the noise of constant availability. Absence becomes your teacher. In absence, you learn who values you for who you are, not just for what you give. In absence, you learn the power of your own voice, no longer drowned by others' demands. In absence, you learn that presence is sacred only when it is chosen, not when it is obligatory. Imagine the rhythm of the ocean. The waves crash, then retreat. If the tide only advanced, never receded, the shoreline would be destroyed. Your availability must be like the tide, sometimes present, sometimes withdrawn, always balanced. Without that rhythm, there is no life, only erosion. And yet, our fear resists this truth. We fear being forgotten. We fear being replaced. We fear that if we step back, no one will come looking for us. But here is the paradox. Those who truly love you will not forget. They will endure the silence. They will reach across the absence. Their bond with you will survive distance, because it was never built on convenience. It was built on soul. And those who disappear, they were never meant to stay. When you stop being available, you are not only testing others, you are transforming yourself. You begin to rest, you begin to create, you begin to hear the quiet song of your own being. And in that song, you find freedom. When you stop being available, you reclaim your silence. And silence, though feared by many, is not emptiness. Silence is a womb. It is the place where all creation begins. Every great idea, every work of art, every deep transformation is born not in noise, but in stillness. Jung insisted that the unconscious speaks in whispers, in dreams, in symbols, in fleeting intuitions. How can you ever hear these whispers if you are always answering someone else's call? The moment you withdraw, the silence grows louder. At first, it feels unbearable. The phone does not buzz. The messages slow down. The world that once demanded your attention begins to move without you. You feel invisible, forgotten, cast aside. And in that discomfort, a choice appears. Return to the safety of constant availability or walk deeper into the silence. If you dare to stay, the silence transforms. It becomes your ally, your companion, your teacher. Nietzsche once said, "Become who you are." But who you are cannot be discovered in the endless chatter of others. Who you are is revealed when you stand alone, when the voices of demand fall silent, when the only presence left is your own. This is why absence is powerful. It strips away illusion and forces authenticity. Relationships tested by absence reveal their true essence. Imagine the friend who only calls you when they need help. When you stop being available, the calls stop. Was it friendship or was it convenience? Imagine the lover who only cherishes you when you are endlessly giving. When you withdraw, they grow restless, angry, cold. Was it love or was it dependence? Imagine the workplace that applauds you for your sacrifices but offers no respect in return. When you set boundaries, you are suddenly labeled difficult. Was it appreciation or exploitation? This is the alchemy of withdrawal. It turns illusions into truth. And though the truth may wound, it is a wound that heals. Better the sharp sting of clarity than the slow suffocation of deception. Freud wrote that unexpressed emotions never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. The same is true of unexpressed boundaries. If you never allow yourself to step back, resentment grows. You smile, but inside you fester. You give, but inside you harden. One day the explosion comes, one day the soul revolts. Why wait for that collapse? Why not choose now to step back, to breathe, to protect the sacred fire of your being? Think of a candle. If it is left burning in the open air without pause, eventually the wax is consumed and the flame dies. But if you protect it, if you shield it, the candle burns longer, brighter, stronger. Your availability is that flame. If you give it without end, it extinguishes. If you guard it, it illuminates. This is not selfishness. It is sacred stewardship. You are entrusted with only one soul, only one life. To exhaust yourself in service of others while neglecting your own being is not noble. It is a betrayal of the gift you were given. Jung understood this deeply. He said, "What you resist not only persists, but grows in size." When you resist your need for rest, for solitude, for absence, the hunger only grows. But when you embrace it, when you allow yourself to step back, you discover that it was never selfish at all. It was survival. And here lies a strange paradox. The more you step back, the more powerful your presence becomes. Imagine a piece of music with no pauses, no rests, no silence. It would be unbearable, a wall of noise. It is the silence between the notes that makes the music beautiful. In the same way, your absence gives shape to your presence. It is what makes your yes meaningful, because it is no longer drowned by 1,000 automatic yeses. This rhythm of presence and absence, of giving and withholding, is woven into the very fabric of nature. The moon waxes and wanes, the seasons shift, the ocean advances and retreats. Why then do we think we must be endlessly available, as if we are machines, not part of the living cosmos? To live without rhythm is to live against life itself. When you stop being available, you begin to notice who rises to meet you in your absence. Some people will leave. Let them. Their departure is not your loss, it is their revelation. Others will stay, will adapt, will reach into the silence because their bond with you is not built on constant access, but on genuine connection. And those relationships, tested in the fire of absence, emerge purer, stronger, truer. And what of you? What happens inside you when you withdraw? At first, fear, but then a subtle joy. The first morning you wake up and realize your time belongs to you again. The first evening you sit in silence and feel peace instead of loneliness. The first spark of creativity that arises because your mind is no longer cluttered with others' noise. Slowly, absence becomes liberation. Rilke reminds us, "Let everything happen to you, beauty and terror. Just keep going. No feeling is final." When you withdraw, you will feel both beauty and terror. The terror of being forgotten, the beauty of being free, but neither lasts forever. What lasts is the transformation, the rediscovery of yourself, whole and undivided. So ask yourself, who are you when you are no longer endlessly available? What dreams rise in the silence? What truths whisper in the stillness? What passions return when the demands of others no longer consume your days? These are not small questions. They are the questions that reshape a life. When you stop being available, everything changes, not only in how others treat you, but in how you treat yourself. You begin to walk differently, to speak differently, to love differently. There is a new weight in your presence, a gravity born not from exhaustion but from wholeness, and people feel it. They may not understand it, they may even resist it, but they feel it. Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." For many, constant availability is fate disguised as virtue. It is the unconscious fear of rejection dressed up as generosity. It is the unhealed wound of abandonment hidden beneath the mask of loyalty. But when you make it conscious, when you see that your endless availability is not always love, but often fear, you gain the power to change. No longer a puppet pulled by invisible strings, you become the author of your own story. And in authoring your story, you must learn the art of the pause. The pause is not absence, it is presence of a higher kind. It is the moment you step back to breathe, to reflect, to gather your energy. It is the act of saying, "My worth is not measured by how much I give, but by how true I remain to myself." In that pause, you reclaim your soul. Think of a tree. If it gave away every leaf, every branch, every root at the demand of others, it would not survive. Its giving is measured, seasonal, rhythmic. It sheds leaves when it must, rests in winter, blooms again in spring. Its availability is not endless, but wise. And because of this wisdom it endures, so too must we learn to endure by honoring our rhythm, by refusing to be endlessly available. There will be those who do not understand. They will call you selfish. They will call you distant. They will call you cold. But remember, you are not here to be endlessly understood. You are here to live fully, truthfully, deeply. And those who truly love you will come to see that your absence is not rejection, but respect for yourself and ultimately for them. For only when you honor your own boundaries can you love others without resentment. Nietzsche declared, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Your why cannot simply be to serve others at your own expense. Your why must be to live in alignment with your truth, your soul, your becoming. Then, and only then, can you give to others in a way that does not destroy you. And perhaps in your withdrawal, others will learn as well. Perhaps the friend who always leaned on you will learn to stand. Perhaps the partner who always demanded will learn to give. Perhaps the colleague who always relied on you will learn responsibility. Your absence is not just for you. It is a mirror for others, a chance for them to grow. This is why stepping back is not an act of cruelty, but of courage. To withdraw is to trust life, to trust that what is meant to remain will remain, and what is meant to fall away will fall. You cannot lose what is truly yours. You can only lose illusions. And as the illusions fall, something extraordinary happens. You feel lighter. You breathe deeper. You begin to taste freedom. You realize that your life does not collapse when you are not endlessly available. The world continues, people adapt, and you remain, not diminished, but renewed. Rilke wrote, "Go into yourself. Find out the reason that commands you to write. See whether it has spread its roots into the very depths of your heart. Replace write with live. Go into yourself. Find out the reason that commands you to live. Is it to be endlessly available, or is it to honor the sacred gift of your being? If the reason is shallow, life feels heavy. If the reason is deep, life becomes luminous." So let us return to the beginning. When you stop being available, everything changes. Relationships shift, truths emerge, boundaries solidify, silence speaks. And in that transformation, you are reborn. But the journey does not end there. The challenge is to remain faithful to this new way of living, to resist the old patterns of overgiving, to guard the flame of your soul even when guilt whispers, even when others demand, even when fear tries to pull you back into endless availability. This is not a one-time act. It is a discipline, a practice, a way of being. And the reward? A life lived with integrity, a love shared with authenticity, a soul unbroken by exhaustion. So now I ask you, are you willing to step back? Are you willing to let silence speak? Are you willing to trust absence to reveal the truth? Are you willing to honor your own being above the endless demands of the world? The choice is yours. But remember, when you stop being available, everything changes, and what changes most of all is you. If this message resonated with you, write in the comments, "I choose my peace."